So has AI actually gone too far this time? Or is it just the ramblings of an aspiring maverick in the space? Well, it probably will at some point, but since film producer Hashem Al-Ghaili has created a video showing the concept of a real-life Matrix-esque pod in an effort to reform them back into society while simultaneously dealing with the current prison systems that we spend so much money on today. But doesn't it seem all too science fiction-y? Of course, this is just a concept, and I don't think we'll have this kind of technology for quite some time, but hey, with the advancements of Elon Musk's Neuralink, it could be sooner than we think. Hashem even told The Wire that the science behind it already exists, and since the successful trials on animals and the rapid development of AI text to video, we could have this technology ready in less than a decade. Now I know what you're thinking. What type of content could be injected into one's neural pathways that would be so impactful that they're fully remorseful and reformed citizens of society? Because I know for a fact that 10 years of YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels and TikToks condensed into 5 minutes would just destroy their brains anyway with no chance of rehabilitation. And while it's not actually as fun as subjecting a criminal to years of Skibbity Toilet and Patrick Bateman Sigma edits, it turns out that AI will first scan the brain of said criminal and create content based on his neurobiology. Coupled with the case files on his criminal record, it will punish him by showing AI generated videos and implanting memories to promote rehabilitation according to what crime was committed. For example, someone who committed a murder would be shown the perspective of his victim moments or days before the act, up until the pure terror they must have felt moments before passing, and subsequently the grief and despair of all of the friends and family after losing a loved one. This is planned to not only cause mental trauma to the criminal, but also to expand the amount of guilt they may or may not be feeling after committing such an act, and hopefully teach empathy to the wrongdoer so they can go back into the world a reformed, more positive and productive person. Now this might seem familiar to some of you, as this is done as a punishment in a similar style on an episode of Black Mirror, where the main character is forced to relive the same day repeatedly, first waking up with amnesia, and as she navigates her surroundings, she encounters strange symbols and hostile people. Throughout the day, she's then pursued by these relentless onlookers who record her suffering on their phone. The reason for her punishment becomes clear later. The main character was involved in a heinous crime, and her punishment was to experience the terror and isolation she once inflicted on a child. Predictive programming is one hell of a theory. But in terms of rehabilitation and fitting in as a more adjusted member of society, it's hard not to think of the replicants in Bladerunner, who are fed false memories as to feel and act more human.
Those aren't your memories, they're somebody else's. They're Tyrell's nieces.
But will our reformed criminals truly be as human as they were before the treatment? I think if you're using AI and advanced machinery to alter someone's mind like this, then it questions their entire human experience, since their minds have been artificially altered deliberately so they might make different actions in the future, i.e. showing remorse and becoming a positive influence on society. Not that this isn't entirely bad on a fundamental level of hoping for a more cooperative and harmonious world, but if our world is filled with mind-altered ex-convicts, isn't that just an ultimately inhumane way of going about things? I mean, of course, they are allowed to make the initial choice whether to go through with this therapy or just go to a regular cell, right? And at the end of the day, being locked up in a cell for just as many years as it feels in the simulation is the criminal justice system taking away their rights of free will to a massive extent anyway. It also raises the questions of informed consent, since manipulating someone's mind without their full understanding or capability to comprehend exactly what it will do to them is probably not such a good idea. Imagine young Jamario or little Mickey are arrogant enough just to sign the waiver and take the Congify treatment only to have long-lasting psychological effects for the rest of their lives. Anyway, the ethics involved that argue for the wrongdoer aside, the concept seems cool in itself, but I still feel like it doesn't get true justice for the victim. One reason I say this is because it might seem like a full prison sentence for anyone that's subject to this technology, but they still aren't punished for the fact that the real-time years of their lives are taken from them by having to sit in a cell for years. It's all just over in a few minutes. I mean, I guess it is very expensive housing and feeding prisoners for all those years, but the Congify technology will be expensive too, right? It's said that the fact they're going to go back into society willing and able to be productive citizens, Hashem predicts that the cost of this technology will be offset by not having to host as many prisoners and a better economy thanks to these now good guy convicts. But let's say it isn't all smooth sailing like that. I also want to put to you guys the effectiveness of this treatment on a case-by-case basis, with the knowledge that you could just get some fake memories implanted. You could go out, inflict fatal damage onto someone, and then just go get some fake memories implanted and be out the next day. Then just to consciously ignore said memories if you were mentally strong enough.
I refuse! What?
Imagine again it doesn't work as well as hoped on some repeat criminals, and they get jacked up with like 10 sets of fake memories, and either tank the psychological trauma and they're all fine, or is badly affected over time until he doesn't even know who he is anymore. Now that's a whole new look on cyberpsychosis. My final point and 2 cents on this whole concept would be that what if we had this type of technology and it's completely effective, why just use it for prisoners? It's literally the simulations that Neo and the crew in the Matrix movies use to train and do things out of the real world. Once again, I must emphasize, if this is to ever come into existence. But why wouldn't we use it to harness more time in a conscious simulation where you could spend your entire evening after your 10-hour shift watching 10 movies in the space of 5 real-time minutes? Or potentially relive cherished memories that the technology could scan from your brain and replay to you endlessly. Well, then we would be well and truly doomed as a whole, since everyone would just go quite literally into this Matrix Sword Art Online Neuromancer level simulation, and real memories created by real people in the real world would cease to be created, and I think that's very sad to think about. So what do you guys think of Congify? Do the ethical, economical and societal positives outweigh the negatives? Let me know in the comments below and I'll try my best to get back to you all.